This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy. That's my closet full of all the stuff that I love. And today we look at the awful and the horrible. Two foreign gothic horror films, both from 1962. Two doctors trying to help loved ones who are suffering. Two films so similar, they've actually played on double bills. And one film that stars a horror film icon. Let's check it out. Our first film today is the awful Dr. Orlof from 1962, beautiful black and white, a brisk 86 minutes. This one is in French with English subtitles, or you have the option of watching it dubbed into English. This is about a surgeon and his blind mute assistant who lure women into this doctor's castle so he can obtain face grafts from them to help out his disfigured daughter. Again, I'm looking at something that I would almost think is sort of a subgenre of horror films. I'm talking about films where there's usually a doctor who's trying to fix a loved one's physical appearance by killing other women, or people are trying to remake women into a certain vision. I'm thinking of the great Eyes Without a Face, the film, the next one we're going to talk about, The Horrible Dr. Hichcock. Even to a crazy extent, the horror classic, in my mind at least, The Brain That Wouldn't Die, where the doctor's girlfriend's head is cut off and he keeps the head alive and tries to find beautiful women to supply a body that he can graft the head onto. But to a lesser extent, maybe even films like Phoenix or even Vertigo, where they're remaking women into a certain vision. This one also has some Jack the Ripper vibes because all the women they kill are what you might call harlots. The film's visual style, it sort of alternates between some really nice atmospheric, moody, gothic visuals when the doctor and his assistant are performing their dastardly deeds. They shot it in Madrid, the city of Madrid. Then the segments with the sergeants who are trying to figure out who's behind this string of murders of young women, that visually is pretty bland and straightforward. So it's kind of a bifurcated vision here visually of this in this film. There are good performances. The doctor himself has kind of almost a Boris Karloff-like presence, though not quite up to the standard of Karloff. But his assistant, which is sort of the Igor character here, he's really good. And he'd fit in well, I think, into like a classic Universal monster film. That's how good he is. The music is quite unusual. Sometimes it's just drums and other percussion. Sometimes it's a little discordant. And it turns out the director actually has a background as a jazz musician. And speaking of the director here is Jess Franco. He also wrote the screenplay. I've heard a lot about this director. Some people really like him. Some people really dislike him. This is actually the first film of his that I've ever seen. And I don't think it's really representative of the vast majority of his work. There is some surprising nudity in this film. A couple of scenes. For 1962, I was pretty surprised. But other clips of his films that are in some of the extras here, the nudity is much more explicit. Full frontal we're talking about. So apparently his work ranges from B horror films to hardcore sex films, according to IMDb at least. This film is actually considered to be the first horror film produced in Spain. So my rating for The Awful Dr. Orlof, I'm going to give this one 3.5 eyeballs out of 5. Eyeballs because that great character in here, that Igor type character called Morpho, he's got like one eye going one way, the other one going the other way. It's total makeup on his eyes. They're not his real eyes at all. But I really like him. In fact, the actor had a dance background, and the way he moves is really interesting and unusual. He's just the highlight of the film, I thought. So what's on this disc? This is a Kino disc. Picture quality here is very average. Be warned about that. There are a lot of scratches in it. The black and white kind of fades in and out in certain places. It didn't ruin my enjoyment of it, but it's definitely noticeable. There's an audio commentary. There are several extras, including interview with the director, a making of documentary, an homage to Jess Franco. They run anywhere from like 8 minutes to about 16 minutes. And where can you see The Awful Dr. Orlof? I don't see it streaming anywhere, but I did see it. It is on YouTube for free. I got this at during a Kino sale for $10. If you're a horror fan, definitely worth the $10. Our second film today is The Horrible Dr. Hichcock, also from 1962. This one is either 87 minutes or 76 minutes long. More on that in a little bit. This is in color in Italian with English subtitles, or you can watch the English dub version. So this takes place in London in 1885. We have a woman who marries a doctor who happens to be a necrophiliac, and his first wife died under mysterious circumstances and may be returning from the grave to torment this new wife of his. So keeping with the ideas about the subgenre we talked about earlier, we have a doctor trying to help a loved one who is suffering. In this case, he wants to take the blood from his new wife and hope it will reactivate or reanimate his dead wife. So this is about necrophilia, but I'm going to be honest with you, I had no idea that that's what this was about. I didn't even realize it. I thought, because I read about it later, I thought, this is about necrophilia? I think either I was too tired, or maybe the bourbon I was drinking was a little too strong, or maybe I was just clueless. That can happen, of course. But I also had a lot of questions while I'm watching it, like, why is this person doing that? What is this supposed to mean? Things were not too clear. Well, it turns out that audiences at the time this was released were also confused. The writer, Ernesto Gastaldi, who wrote many giallo and westerns, among other things, he said that he had to cut 10 pages from the script at the last minute because they were running out of time. This thing was shot in 14 days, and those 10 pages would have cleared a lot of this up. In addition, the Italian censors cut out all the scenes clearly showing the doctor was a necrophiliac. So I felt a little bit vindicated. I wasn't too clueless about this. The audiences at the time also were confused about whether this guy was a necrophiliac or just weird or what he was up to. There are some Hitchcock influences here, of course, most deliberately in the title, but they dropped the T from Hitchcock just to avoid confusion, maybe some lawsuits or something. The most obvious similarity would be to Hitchcock's classic film Rebecca, which is, of course, a much, much better film than this one. But visually, this is impressive. Nice Gothic, Victorian feel to it. And then even occasionally, you'll see some very bold colors show up, similar to a Mario Bava film. The biggest appeal of this film, I think, is that it stars horror icon Barbara Steele. She plays the new wife of the doctor. She has those large, really expressive eyes, just an interesting face that just draws you in and compels you to watch her every time she's on screen. She was cast in this because she had just completed the very successful film The Pit and the Pendulum, which I think, again, is superior to this one. And some of her other films include Black Sunday and Shivers, the Cronenberg film, which I don't even remember her being in, and Piranha. I don't remember her being in that one either, but she has a long filmography. So my rating for The Horrible Dr. Hitchcock, I'm going to give this one 2.5 candles out of 5 candles, because being a Gothic melodrama, they're walking around hallways holding those candles all the time. So what's on this disc? Well, this is a Radiance disc. It is Region B. There are 2 discs in here. There's a booklet, which is quite good. It's over 50 pages long. Now, the second disc is the reordered North American version of this film, which is shorter. It's 76 minutes long, so about 10 minutes shorter. And I was actually going to try to watch that because I wanted to clear up some confusion I had, but it froze. And then I cleaned it, and it froze a different place. Cleaned it many more times, and it started kind of working, but still not perfectly, so kind of disappointed there. A lot of extras on here. There's an audio commentary. There are some video extras, an interview with the writer. There's a visual essay. Those are about 25 minutes long each. Where can you see The Horrible Dr. Hitchcock? I don't see it streaming. It is also on YouTube in its entirety for free, it looks like. So check it out there. All right, so feel free to leave any comments or suggestions down below. Do you know any other films that might fit this subgenre of horror that I'm talking about? Leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be great. Share this with your friends and neighbors. Subscribing is free. Also free is we're on the Letterboxd app under the Kazdoy Closet. There's a link in the notes down below how to get to that. That's where we leave brief written reviews of other things we're watching that we don't talk about here. Most recently, the films Creature from the Haunted Sea and The Trial. Again, two films that couldn't be more opposite each other. So, hope you like this one. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.